The curled knuckle technique. So you've heard me mention this already in a few videos, but I cannot emphasize to you enough the importance of understanding this, especially when it comes to chordal playing. Now, if we're playing single notes on the guitar, a lot of times we want to actually mute the other notes around us, because especially if we're playing electric guitar and the guitar is loud or you're running an overdrive or a distortion pedal through it, there's a lot of feedback that can happen, other notes that sound out. On the acoustic guitar is pretty forgiving if you hit a few strings like this. If this were an electric guitar and it was very loud, it would be extremely voluminous. It would be extremely loud. And because of that, we need to learn to tame the strings down by doing certain mutes with our fingers, as we're going to learn later on in the program. However, when it comes to chords, we want all those strings to sing out, or at least the ones that we do. We're going to learn some muting techniques as well, some purposeful muting techniques when we don't want to hear a particular note, okay? But for right now, it's actually harder to not mute the strings than it is to mute them, which will be easier later on, okay? So what we really want to do whenever we're running into these problems in regards to you know, if you're playing on your fingertips, if you're playing close to the fret, if you're using all your fingers, you're pressing down hard enough, you've got that thumb dropped, if you're still having a problem when you're playing your chords, if you're getting those muted notes, getting 3 muted notes there, it's because of the way that I'm holding my hand. So even if I were to drop my thumb, I've still got my hand in kind of a funny position here, in that I'm not quite playing on my fingertips. I am for the most part, but let's say I just keep this position that I'm at. The only difference that I'm going to do is I'm going to curl the knuckles. So really, if you notice, the surface area of what I'm fretting is no different. I really haven't changed. I could get up on my fingertips a little bit more, but I'm not going to for the purposes of this video, to show you that the only difference I'm doing here between that lame chord that has muted notes and this chord that sounds great, the only difference I did there is I curled the knuckle a little bit. And basically what you're doing is you're kind of thinking that action, okay? Instead of doing some other funky thing, just think curl, okay? So you've got that chord there. Think about curling that last knuckle, and then let the rest of your hand follow whatever it is that it needs to do in order to curl that knuckle. So when I curl the knuckle right now, when I do this, what happens inevitably is my hand starts coming out front more. I mean, a lot's going on. My forearm is moving towards the guitar more. My elbow is tucking in. My shoulder's dropping slightly. All things that guitar teachers will oftentimes tell you to do in order to be able to play a chord. But what I found is this is the #1 thing that you can do. Everything else will fall in suit if you should need to drop your shoulder or something like that. Okay? So the point of this lesson, and what I want you to take away from this, and what I want you to practice as soon as we're done when we're learning these chords, is I really want you to curl that knuckle. I can't emphasize that enough. Now, you don't want it to hurt, you know, you don't want to, this is not something that is just, you don't want it to hurt, but you want to be very cognizant of it. You really want to be aware and be thinking about it and notice. And you curling that knuckle, I promise you're going to have the cleanest chords in town. So make sure you curl the knuckle as you're learning these chords, and if you keep up with that, you're not going to run into any problems with mutes and that sort of thing. And again, as always, the knowledge of this is great. We got to know it first, and then we got to practice it, okay? So just like when we observe our hands, this is the same thing here. The lesson is the observance of it. You're saying, oh, okay, oh, I'm muting that with the back of my finger. Okay, Eric said I was going to do that. So now I need to adjust it. So just the observance in and of itself is very, very powerful. However, without the practice, it's not nearly as powerful, okay? If you notice it, you may get 10% out of it for a few chords playing until you forget it. But what you need to do is take that technique, work it, practice it, and then it will become second nature to you, and it will become part of who you are as a person. It will become part of who you are as a player, and you won't have to think about it, but it will just become natural to you. All right, so curl that knuckle when practicing these chords coming up, and let's keep going.